Ready to ball till we fall. All right. Welcome back to another Wisco Fanatics Wednesday. Today, we'll be talking about the Brewers Game 2, Game 3. If you are interested, Jake and I did do our discussions on our favorite things about the 2024 season. Yes, just because the season ended earlier than we wanted it to doesn't mean that the season was a waste or it was useless or that nothing good happened. Jake and I still enjoyed the 2024 Milwaukee Brewers, so we gave it its own little video to discuss some of our favorite things about it. We each gave an honorable mention and then our top three things that we enjoyed the most from the 2024 Brewers season. But today we're going to talk Game 2, Game 3, have a little bit of a conversation, and then we're going to bring Mike in to talk about the Badgers football win over Purdue and preview their game against Rutgers.
Welcome to another live episode of the Wisco Fanatics Show, where we discuss the Packers, Bucks, Brewers, Badgers football, and basketball from an optimistic perspective. Wisco Fanatics is brought to you by Cardboard Legacy, Wisconsin's most complete sports card shop. Buy, sell, grade, and consign all at their location in Oshkosh.
All right. So as I said, we're going to talk Brewers and Mets Game 2 and Game 3. Now, normally, Jake, we've had this discussion many times. We are normally bad news first kind of guys, but this week we have to change it up a little bit, and we have to do good news first, bad news second. So let's start with the good news. Game 2, the very, very fun middle game, Game 2.
Yeah, honestly, this game might have been, and this might be hyperbole, but might have been my favorite Brewers game in recent memory. Such great emotional rushes, I'll say. But the Brewers came out. Montes started this game. He was battling. You really couldn't have asked for more from him, from a guy going out there giving us a chance to win. Right at the end of the day,
absolutely.
McGill was fantastic in this one. Payamps, Koenig were okay. Joe Ross was good, and Devin Williams was really good in this one. But as we get into the hitting, so the Brewers got out to a lead, obviously. They were behind. I'm sorry. That was the next game that they got out to a lead. They started behind 1-0, and then Chourio hit a home run to give us the lead, and it was like, holy crap, dude. This guy can do everything, right? Gives us a home run. The vibes are immaculate, right, from the first inning, right?
Yep.
The Mets come back in the second inning, get a couple runs, and people start stressing out and freaking out like the season's over at that point, right after the second inning. And it's like, guys, they give us 9 innings. We get 9 innings. No matter what. No matter if we lose this game, win this game, let's just enjoy the next 8 innings, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So Brewers end up getting a sac fly from Perkins, get another run across in the 5th inning, and then comes the 8th inning, right? You fast forward a little bit to the 8th inning, and we get another home run from Jackson Chourio to tie this game. And I believe he was the first person ever to have a leadoff homer and a game-tying homer in the same game.
The stat that I have is that Jackson Chourio is the second player in Major League Baseball history to hit 2 game-tying home runs in a playoff game.
He was the second. That's what it was.
Yeah, the other one, it's a name you might have heard. The other one that did it was in 1928. It was some dude named Babe Ruth.
Yeah. I don't even. Yeah. Doesn't ring a bell.
Like he's not even. If you've heard the name, you might recognize it. Like if you have any of his cards laying around that you don't want, like I'll take them. Yeah. I liked them when he was, in 1928 when I was watching baseball games. So.
Right.
But this is the thing. If we're putting Babe Ruth and Jackson Chourio in the same sentence, we have to continue to impress upon people that he is 20 years old.
Yeah, I don't think we've heard it a lot over the last couple of weeks, especially over the last month, over the last 2 months. But I really don't think people understand the concept of a 20-year-old doing what he's doing. That is uncalled for, what he's doing.
I mean, he was one of my takeaways. Like, he was my number one takeaway for the 2024 Brewers.
Yeah.
If we look at strictly just June 1st to the end of the season, he's a superstar.
Oh, yeah.
He was for the final June, July, August, September, and the first week of October, he played like a superstar.
Yeah, I believe he had the 3rd highest win share. It is the baseball stat in the National League. Wins above replacement. He was behind Ohtani and Lindor, which obviously the Mets are on fire right now. They're one game away from going to the NLCS.
That sounds plausible.
Yeah, so, anyways, and we tied the game at 3, and then Adames gets on, Battles gets on base, and then Mitchell, first pitch, sees a hanging curveball and knocks it over the fence, and all the emotions just come and hit you right in the face, and it's like, oh my goodness, is this really happening right now? This Brewers team is what they've been doing all year, exciting games. What a moment for him, what a moment for Brewers fans. Absolutely amazing feeling and win. That Wednesday at work was one of the highest feelings I've had in a long time at work, man. It was like, holy crap, I could do anything I want right now because I'm so excited about how the Brewers won last night.
I'm not finding if he was third in win share.
I thought I heard that on the broadcast during the game.
Say Warren has him at 17th, which doesn't seem right, but
no,
I don't know. Whatever. He was fantastic. He's among players that are doing superstar things. Brett said he's sad that we lost, but in the end, so proud of the Brewers with the young talent, including all these guys. Plenty of young guys will get our shot more and will compete for years. Said, like I said at the beginning of the year, that was the steal of the contract that Mark got. We took a gamble on that, and that paid off. And that's what it is. It's like you're trading – Jackson Chourio is trading potentially more money for long-term security. And, yes, Brett, that's what we're here for. We're here for the keeping the positive and calm. We're going to have a discussion after we talk about Game 3 about how some of the ways that people were reacting and things like that. But going to Game 2, Jackson Chourio became the youngest player ever to hit a leadoff home run in the playoffs. Something that came out from Tuesday's game, Game 1, the pulling of Freddie Peralta early. That was a really hot topic of conversation. I wanted to come back to this. Pat Murphy was the least consistent because he pulled Montes the same way after twice in the order. So I think that was like a predetermined thing. Like, hey, we're putting our starters through twice in the order, and then we're pulling them. So I don't think it was something that like, oh my God, Murphy made this terrible mistake. It's like we, after the benefit of hindsight, knowing that the Brewers eventually lost, we're like, oh my God, he pulled Freddie after 68 pitches. Why would he do that? It was more about the number of batters they faced.
Yep.
So it was consistent with Montes. Now, looking at one thing that I don't want to be lost on this game and something that, again, it comes down to us having enough time to do these things. I would have liked to pull the top of the 7th inning for the Brewers defense because there was 3 really good plays by the Brewers in the top of the 7th. 2 of them by Joey Ortiz and 1 of them by Willie Adames. Just a really good inning of defense that doesn't show up on the scorecard. It shows up by not letting the Mets score runs, but it doesn't actually show up. Like there's no stat for web gems. But the Brewers played some really good defense in the top of the 7th, and I wanted to make sure I gave them credit for that. Going into the bottom of the 8th, we talked. You mentioned Jackson Chourio hit the game-tying home run. Blake Perkins had a single, so the Brewers get the lead off or the lead run on base, and William Contreras grounds into a double play.
Yeah,
it's like shit. Where do we go from here? And then Willie Adames gets down 0-2, kind of swinging like he's trying to take a 4-3 lead, in one swing. But he gets down 0-2 and pulls a single to left field. And Garrett Mitchell, first pitch, catches a hanging breaking ball and puts it 390 feet, 107.9 miles an hour off the bat.
Yeah, he crushed that. For a breaking ball that was in the 70s and he hit it 107, that's freaking nuts.
I'll be completely honest with you. When he hit it, I'm like, oh, it's going to be off the wall. Like Willie Adames is going to score. Garrett Mitchell will be at second with a double, maybe even a triple. And then it scraped over the wall, and I was like, oh. Like I had to like stifle yelling because everybody in my house was asleep except for me. So like trying to keep quiet, even though I was not able to keep calm.
I didn't care about keeping quiet. I was screaming.
Yeah, I went outside for the 9th inning so that I didn't wake people up. Should have done that for Thursday, I guess.
Yeah.
But looking at the first two games as a whole, I think the Brewers offense just got a little impatient. You know, there was a lot of conversations about Adames, Contreras, Hoskins, Sanchez, guys not contributing as much offensively. I think there was a lot more chasing than they normally had, and they only drew 2 walks in game 2. So I think that was that. And one thing I have to say, and this is before we go to game 3, is people were letting their feelings make them stupid. Saying that Yoel Payamps is not a playoff pitcher or shouldn't be on the playoff roster, like he literally had like a 3.05 ERA. Like that's good. That's good for a reliever.
Yeah, it is.
That's obviously it would be great for a starter, but that's good for a reliever. I think people only remember that stretch that he went through in July and I think early August where he struggled for like 5 or 6 appearances and then just completely disregarded the fact that from that point through the rest of the season, he only gave up like 1 earned run in like the next 13 appearances that he made.
Mm-hmm.
And then people saying dumb shit. This was in like the 3rd or 4th inning again, to your point, when the Brewers were down 3-1 and people are acting like the series is over. In the 4th inning, saying stuff like, oh, the Brewers aren't a playoff team. It's like
pretty weird for a non-playoff team to be playing in the playoffs.
We are sitting here watching the postseason, Major League Baseball's playoffs, and you're going to say some dumb shit like the Brewers aren't a playoff team.
Yep.
God, people got to stop letting their feelings make them look dumb. Please just stop saying dumb shit, people. Like, grinds my gears.
I agree.
Even with game 3, not going how we want it. Let's talk about game 3. Give me your thoughts on it, and then we're going to have some conversations.
Yeah. So to start off, I thought Tobias Myers was excellent. Gave us 5 innings.
Stellar in all caps.
Yeah, he was amazing. 2 hits, no earned runs, no walks, 5 Ks, over 5 innings pitched, only 66 pitches. I mean, that's just doesn't get better than that.
3 of his 5 strikeouts were looking.
Yeah.
That's dirty.
He had what one was that? I wish I would have wrote it down. He had a strikeout, and he made like a grimace afterwards, and it was just kind of like, yeah, this dude is feeling himself. He threw like a breaking ball, and it just hit the corner, and he went like, and I was like,
he knew that was nasty. Appreciating your own art right there a little bit.
Yeah, that was, dude. If you're an athlete and you perfect your craft, you make it to that level, and you're in the playoffs, and the competitive, the competitive fire is just flowing through your blood, man. I mean, you're allowed to celebrate stuff like that. I absolutely, this is the thing about baseball fans, like just in general, baseball fans, not just Brewers fans in general, they're like so old school where they don't like players celebrating, and that just bothers me. And like same thing goes for like,
I like it.
Like people like complaining about celebrations in other sports like football and basketball and stuff. And like I understand that sometimes I do go over the top, and there's some of them where I'm kind of like, maybe ease up on that a little bit. But for the most part, it's just like, dude, you guys have no idea how hard these guys work.
There's a difference between celebrating and showboating. I'll say that.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair. But like, you're allowed to show emotion, in my opinion. Yep. I agree. I am glad to see him back. I was glad to see him back last night too. Made the episode much better. Go check it out, by the way. Trevor McGill was excellent in this game. Nick Mears was excellent in this game. Freddie Peralta. We had a conversation about him last game. He comes in, and so we have the home runs, right? We have the back-to-back home runs from Bowers and Frelick, and Frelick was absolutely a freaking bomb.
Mashed.
That was a bomb. I did not expect that to come off a baseball bat. I mean, when Jake Bowers hits it, I was like, oh, hell yeah, let's go, baby. And then Frelick hit it. I was like, yeah, there's no way. There's no way that just happened. That should not happen. But, you knew he was going to have a moment because he seems like that kind of guy. Even with all the trash talk, you always feel like Sal Frelick is ready to go because he's always locked in.
He's competitive.
You can see it in his eyes.
Yep.
The guy's ready to go.
Yep.
What do you need me to do, coach? He's the best kind of player.
Yep.
I wish we had 11 Sal Frelicks.
I like that.
Just mentality-wise. I love Sal Frelick, man. He's an absolute dog. But he was ready to go. Even when he got on base the game before, he got a base hit when the Brewers were down. And, he's screaming at the bench, like, let's fucking go. And it's like, yeah, you need those kind of people on your team, dude.
Yep.
No matter what the fans say or the couch GMs, the experts, as they want to call themselves, you need people like that in your clubhouse, in your locker room. You need those kind of people, man.
He's the kind of player that, like, I would want to be teammates with.
Yeah, for sure. Actually, this made me think of something. I want to think of like a Sal Frelick Bucks version, Sal Frelick Packers version, and I want to see who I can come up with. But anyway, Sal Frelick hits that, and after Freddie Peralta got a scoreless 8th inning, I was like, bro, there is zero chance we were losing this baseball game. I was already on my phone, already looking at stuff to talk about the Phillies, already looking at all their stats, their hitting stats, their pitching stats, home and away splits. I was looking at it all. And you know what? I've said it before, and I'm going to say it now so people really believe me. That's the best thing about sports is they have merit. There is a winner and there is a loser. And that's how it goes, man.
Yeah.
And sometimes you gotta wear that shit. And it hurts. We do not – I don't enjoy losing. I know Tyler doesn't enjoy losing. We don't enjoy losing.
Yep.
We just handle it better. We handle it more mature.
I agree with you. And this is one of those things, like, we're going to have some conversations in a minute here.
Yeah.
I don't feel bad saying the sentence that you just said.
I don't feel bad either.
It's absolutely a true thing. I'm just going to give my takeaways here. Churio, he had a leadoff single this game, 105.9 off the bat. He was locked in.
Mm-hmm.
Gary Sanchez in the 3rd inning had a leadoff double. No, sorry, the bottom of the 2nd. Leadoff double. His was 108 off the bat. It's like he had a really good job. Talked about Tobias Myers. You mentioned Trevor McGill. Trevor McGill was brought in for the 6th inning to face the top 3 of the Mets order, and he retired them 1, 2, 3 in 7 pitches.
Yeah, dude, he is a freaking stud.
Yeah, Trevor McGill was my honorable mention for the 2024 Brewers of my favorite takeaways. He was awesome.
Yeah, he was.
And how about Nick Mears? 7th inning, he pitched a 1, 2, 3 7th with some gas.
Yeah.
He was throwing 98-mile-an-hour fastballs on the corners. Like, damn. That makes me feel really smart for calling him as a trade target.
You and Dominic Cotroneo, they were the only ones.
Hey, yep. And then Sal Frelick's home run. That was his first home run since May 15th, and it was 107.6 miles an hour off the bat, the hardest hit of his career.
Mm-hmm.
So it's one of those things where, yes, the Brewers ended up losing, but that Sal Frelick home run is like right there with the Brandon Woodruff homer in 2018.
Yeah, it's
right there. Like, if Woodruff is here, Sal Frelick is 1B.
Yep. I agree.
That was really extremely exciting, regardless of how it ended. Now, we know how it ended. It ended with Devin Williams giving the game up. Now, I'm going to say this. Credit to Pete Alonso. That dude hits bombs. That's all that he does.
Yep.
If we got into a situation where, let's say, Rhys Hoskins gets up to bat with 2 guys on base and he hits a 3-run home run that's a walk-off, Mets fans would probably be like, that's Rhys Hoskins. He hits bombs. That's all he does.
Yeah, and you need those guys in your team too.
Yeah. So, we need to have some conversations here before we move on to the Badgers. So the first one is reaction versus response. Mm-hmm. Now, Jake and I talked about this on Friday morning, the day after the Brewers lost Game 3, about the reactions and the responses.
Mm-hmm.
Because I can tell you this, even though Jake and I are the optimistic and positive perspective show, our reaction, I guarantee you, is the same. Where it's like, there's no way that just happened. Or a heartbreak scenario, or like a come on, like there's no way that just happened. We have that. We still have that. Just because we are positive and optimistic does not mean that we don't have the gut reactions of, oh my God, this hurts. And now I'm sad that the Brewers season is over.
Yep.
Because that's that then becomes the response part. That is where we, as Wisco fanatics and the people that we are trying to influence, differ. And Jake said it, and I'm going to restate it, that we, and I'm sorry if this offends you, we handle things better. But it's because we have worked on ourselves to be able to do so. So, first thing I'm going to say is accepting something doesn't mean that you have to like it. So, again, the Brewers lost. We knew it happened. We accepted that it happened. Doesn't mean we liked it. Doesn't mean that just because we are the positive and optimistic show and we still enjoyed the season, even though it ended earlier than we were hoping it would, doesn't mean that we're happy with how the season ended. Right. I'm getting a little tired of people saying stuff like that on the internet, where it's like we're telling people to chill out when they're saying out-of-pocket stuff, and then they're like, oh, are you happy? Are you happy with how that went? No, but I've accepted it. So there's a difference in the reaction versus the response. Is there anything that you wanted to say on that subject?
Okay, so first I'm gonna rewind. I'm gonna go back a second. My daughter is very sad about something. I don't know what it is, but she's 3 years old and she doesn't know how to control her emotions, much like many of you after losses to sports teams. So first thing I'm gonna say is, when stuff like that happens, I usually give one of these, like a, oh man. That's literally exactly what I do with my hands every single time. Move the hat back, show the bad hairline, put the hat back on, right? And then I go, okay, we got some work to do, right? And that's exactly the mindset that the players have too. Now, that's as close as the correlation as I get to a professional athlete with the mindset. Right. But up to that point, it's just like, it happened. Me complaining about it, it's just like real life, right? Something bad happens to you, you get a flat tire, you bitching about it isn't going to put air back in your tire. You got to put the spare on. You got to go to the store, you got to buy a new tire, you got to put the damn tire on. That's how it works.
You just say that you're never going to be a fan of tires again.
Well, I don't know what to tell you, but you need 4 in your car. Unless you have a dually and you need 6. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. But the point is, you bitching about it isn't going to change anything.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry to say, but I'm talking to other adults, and I feel like I'm talking to my son right now, giving him a life lesson. Because I've had to have these conversations with my son recently of how to handle losses, how to deal with stuff like this. And, he's had a lot of adversity in his football season this year. And I've had some good conversations with him in the car about how to deal with that stuff in a positive way, how to channel that energy and use it in a good way instead of just sitting there and pouting about it, And there's just ways to deal with things. And I'm going to tell you, going on social media and crying and bitching and saying this team sucks and they need to trade this guy and this guy sucks and I told you so, none of that matters. At the end of the day, we're fans. We're supposed to cheer them on, enjoy the ride. This is why we tell you guys during the entire year, enjoy this, enjoy the game. Live in the moment. Enjoy the day. Enjoy the day. Enjoy every single 20-year-old Jackson Chourio at bat. Because next year, it's going to be 21-year-old Jackson Chourio at bats. And I'm going to enjoy every single one of those too. And we're really close to the Bucs season. And people are talking about how Giannis is over the hill because he's 30 now. I don't know when the hell 30 became over the hill. He's not a running back in the NFL. But what I'm trying to say is, we're going to be really close to 30-year-old Giannis. We're going to be really close to year 2 of Damian Lillard. And instead of thinking about what happened last year and, the disaster that it was, in totality, it was a disaster. We had great moments in there, but it was a disaster in a totality. I'm going to enjoy every single moment of year 2 Dame in Milwaukee. I'm going to enjoy Gary Trent Jr. because that's one of my guys I wanted for a couple of years now. I'm going to enjoy Giannis because we don't have him forever. But you know what? We have prime Giannis for the next 5 years, I think. Maybe 6. So I'm going to enjoy every single dribble that he has.
Christian Yelich is another.
Enjoy the moment. Live in the moment.
Yep.
Stop thinking about the end result all the time. That's why you guys stress out about everything in real life too. Worrying about everything else.
And I'll say even a step worse than that is people who are saying that, oh my God, this team just rips my heart out year after year. I'm not getting invested again next year. First of all, you're lying to yourself. Second of all, could you just do that, please? So I don't have to see this on my timeline next year.
Oh my God, right?
This is the thing. And this is why I said the phrase reaction versus response. Because you are not in control of how you react, but you are 100% in control how you respond.
Yeah.
You are 100% in control of how you act after you've moved past the initial reaction. And this is why Jake and I are so opposed to knee-jerk reactions, is because the first thought that pops in your head is not always the smartest one.
Very rarely.
Very rarely. And here's the thing. If you take a couple minutes, a couple hours, this is why we muted the post that we made that night. We muted it overnight. Because I didn't want to wake up in the morning and have to delete a bunch of comments because it's a pity party in our comment section. Because we are not going to allow our comment sections to devolve into the same bullshit that you're going to see on Bally Sports, on Brewers pages, on MLB comments, and see all the same shit that's there. We are not going to be an accessory to that. We are doing things differently. And this is, like Jake said, we handle these things better because we've worked on being able to handle these things better. So I'll say this, losing in a heartbreaking situation, it's an opportunity to work on yourself. Because here's the thing, when you get into these situations and people are going to say things like, oh, I need to say this, it makes me feel better. People say like, oh, it makes me feel better to vent about it. I'm a fan, or I should be allowed to criticize, or I should be allowed to do this and that. If that is what makes you feel better, what does that tell you about yourself? If you going into a comment section or a group that has 15,000 other Brewers fans or 14,000 Brewers fans and 1,000 rival fans who join just to trash talk, if it makes you feel better to walk into that social scenario and say all of these really negative things, if that makes you feel better, what does that tell you about yourself and the way that you are responding to a situation that does not meet your expectations?
But honestly, bro, that's a really good question to ask somebody. But the saddest part, and I'm just going to be completely blunt about it, the saddest part about that question is, yes, it's a very valid question. And yes, 99% of the people should think about it. But also 99% of the people are not going to think about it in that framework. And they're not going to work on themselves. And that's really sad because I know a lot of people have kids. And since I've had my kids, I've had a responsibility to try to better myself for my kids, right? The version that I was at 24 years old was not good enough for my son and my daughter. It absolutely was not. I was a piece of shit compared to who I am now. The version of myself at 32, he's good enough. I still got some work to do. Still got some things to clean up, but that's okay. Everybody has some things to clean up.
Yep.
But if you have kids and you're reacting to sports that way, as people see my cut fingers, I almost cut my ring finger off yesterday. If you react to sports like that, imagine how you're reacting to real life situations like that. And that's real. That's deep.
Yeah.
I really want people to think about that.
Yeah. That's the correlation that we're trying to make. Kim said she gives herself 5 minutes to react to the game, but to herself, not on social media. That's a good way to handle it. Bryant, who does our Packers shows with us, he says it usually takes about a half an hour.
Yeah.
So just taking some time, because like I said, the first thought that pops into your head is not always the smartest one. And then Jake reiterated it's very rarely the smartest one. But here's the thing. If you take 20 minutes to think about it, even if the first thought that popped in your head was the smartest one, 20 minutes later, it'll still be the smartest one. But if the first thought that pops into your head is a really dumb thing or a really negative thing that pops into your head, taking 20 minutes to think about it is going to A, improve your critical thinking, B, save you from looking stupid, and C, better serve your mental health because you are going to be telling yourself that this is a process that better serves me.
True.
because this is the last thing that I'm going to say on this before we switch to the Badgers. When you react this way, of, I'm not going to cheer for this team anymore, or I hate everything about this, or I want this player gone, or I want, this situation done, or I'm sick of the owner, or I'm sick of this, I'm sick of always losing. When you react that way, this is another hard question that I'm going to ask. What does it teach you about yourself? What are you teaching yourself about yourself? What habits are you then reinforcing by acting this way? And I'll say this, we've gone through these Brewers scenarios where they're now like 2-10 in their last 12 playoff games, something like that. There's a lot of opportunity. So now you've had 2 wins and 12 losses, 2 wins, 10 losses, whatever it is. If you react the same way to every one of those losses, you have now 10 times told your brain that it's okay to react like a crybaby and throw a pity party and quit. You are reinforcing that when you act the same way after losses.
Yeah.
And God forbid you're more than a Brewers fan. If you're a Bucks fan, the Bucks have been a pretty rough go since they won the championship.
Yeah.
There's 4 losses per series there. How many times are you telling your brain that it's okay to continue acting this way because you keep doing it? When are you going to interrupt the pattern and say, hey, this pity party shit isn't okay? I can better serve my mental health and that of the people around me by changing the way that I think and asking myself better questions, and by pausing to give myself time to think instead of throwing out the first negative thought that pops into my head off of the initial reaction that I have. This is so serious because we're talking about a sports scenario, but like Jake said, when you get into these scenarios and your brain is going to go, how do I react to losing in this scenario that I'm losing in life? How do I react to other times when I've lost? And your brain's going to be like, oh, I think about my favorite sports teams losing. How do I lose then? How do I react to those losses? And then that's your brain. You've told your brain that it's okay to react like that. So when you lose in life, you're not going to suddenly be like, oh, yeah, I can take this in stride and I can have, a really good reaction to it. That's not how your brain works. Your brain's going to be like, oh, I've reacted to other losses by going on social media and complaining about it, or telling my friends that I'm so sick of this, or stuff like that. Like, it's not going to change on a real life scenario just because it's not sports. Call it what you want, but sports can be a way to teach yourself how to react better to adversity in life.
Yeah, I agree. So I have a challenge for everybody. So since Tyler keeps reiterating it, I'm going to say it too. We have worked on ourselves, and I've switched jobs recently. So I've been at this job now for 5 months, I believe, 5.5 months now. And I want everybody to challenge themselves and watch a coworker tomorrow, somebody who to be negative. And I want you to see how they react to things when things go wrong, and then how you should react. You should think about that. It really is amazing when you pay attention to that stuff. I have a guy at my work. He does not react very nicely to negative things, throwing things, cussing, throwing things in the air, going crazy. I mean, acting a fool, completely a fool. And it's really amazing to me to watch a 40-plus-year-old man act like that. So I can just imagine what he'd be like if the Packers were in the Super Bowl and they lost. Yeah, I would be crushed too. That would suck. But, there are ways to react to things, and that is just not the way, in my opinion. So just a challenge for everybody. Watch your coworkers tomorrow. See how they react to stuff, man. You'll really find out who's real and who's not.
So I'm going to, at some point, I'll probably post these. I'm going to post these 2 questions. And it's the 2 that I ask being, what are you teaching yourself about yourself by continually reacting the same way to losses? And then again, if you feel better about venting your negative feelings, like, what does that tell you about yourself in your everyday? So we wanted to have these conversations because, again, social media was not a pretty place Thursday night, Friday morning, and even still. Now people are starting to focus on 2025, so it's calmed down a bit. We wanted to have these conversations because like Jake said, like I've said now multiple times, we have worked on this. We want to be able to help other people work on it the way that we have. And we'd like to continue having more conversations like this, whether it be, adding more segments to our Wednesday shows or our Tuesday shows, or doing its own thing, or making more posts. We want to have more conversations like these so we can help, anybody who can see it, just ask themselves these questions. So that's what we want to do. That's how we want to help. That's how we want our sports show to be different from other ones that you see. Okay. Anything else you want to say on the Brewers? Okay. Jake and I are kicking around the idea of doing some end of the season award type stuff. We haven't quite nailed down exactly what that's going to look like yet, but just something to keep in mind. We want to make sure that, like we said when we did our 2024 top of the year, top takeaways from the season, we want to make sure that we did get the enjoyment out of this season, that it really was a fun season, even though it didn't end the way that we wanted it to. So, again, life's not over. The Brewers will be back next year. Something that not every franchise in Major League Baseball can say.
Yeah, go ask a Oakland A's fan how they feel. And they deserve to have all the feelings that they want, because their team is literally being ripped away from them.
Their team is leaving.
They have no choice. You think that they look back at how they reacted to some playoff losses in the past and they feel bad about it? Because now they don't even have a team in their city. Think about that for a sec.
Yeah, all three of them. All righty. So we're going to switch to football, and we're going to bring in Mike. So we're going to switch to the Badgers win over Purdue. So we get to back to some good news, at least this week, with some Badger football. And we're going to start with Mike. We'll go to Mike first this week. Mike, who can start with the secondary, and we'll go from the secondary to the front seven this week.
Hi, Mike.
How we doing, fellas? How we doing?
We're doing it
better.
I liked your segment there the last couple minutes. That was very enlightening. So I just want to shout that out real quick. Yeah, but first off, holy crap, this is a win. I'm just going to speak about the game in general real quick. This is one of those games we have not seen in a long time in the Badger program. And when I say that, I mean a 52-6 type game. Jake, you called it. I will give you.
I said they needed one, dude. They needed one.
I know. And we were desperate. We were desperate. It was desperately needed. I mean, both sides of the ball performed pretty well overall for the most part. I mean, everyone got theirs, I guess you could say, so to speak, right? So that's a good way to put it. Yeah. But no, we got to see some new names out there, which was great. The future on some positions definitely looks bright for sure. Going to go into that here in a little bit, but no, kudos to the Batters for beating down. Yeah, I know Purdue is not a good team, but you know what? This is still only going to help our confidence going forward. Dropping 50+ on a team for the first time, and I can't even remember the last time we dropped 50+. Maybe 3 seasons ago, perhaps, but it was just good to play complimentary football once again. That Fickle's always preached about. So shout out to the guys. But yeah, going to the defensive side of the ball, I mean, hell, you couldn't really ask much more for the most part for the secondary. I mean, they held Hudson Card to 11-21, 111 yards. No one had more than 2 catches again for Purdue wide receivers. Quick shout out there. So, I mean, again, you can't really ask for much more there. I mean, they held Hudson Card to a 42.6 QBR, which is pretty damn good as well. I mean, the shout out to this is the snap count, which caught my eye. I know everyone got to play, but I mean, I'll start in the safety room first. I guess that was pretty standard. But I mean, Hunter Wooler, our boy, 5 total tackles on 45 snaps. Him and Zachman both 45 snaps. Zachman 1 tackle. Kamoy Latu actually got out there a little more in this game, which is good to see. He's been having some injury issues going into this season, which again, it was good to see him out there. And then we got to see Braden Moore, who is pretty much going to be the next guy, one of the next guys in line to take over for Hunter Hunter Wohler, Preston Zachman as well. Kamoy Latu is also gone. So Braden Moore is a guy that Badger fans are going to hear more so next year as a projected starter, I think, going in. So, no, it was good to see him. He got out there for a little bit. And Austin Brown, this is the guy who's had back-to-back really good games, I think, for the most part. Badger fans, if you've seen the depth chart actually going into next week, he's now slotted as a number 1 slot corner over Max Lofi, and I think that is more so to do with his play in general because, the USC game, he definitely thrived quite a bit. Last week did pretty well, too. 2 tackles, was in 22 snaps. He was playing a little safety, and he was playing a little slot corner, too, so he got little best of both worlds there. And then we heard of Justin Taylor, another newbie, got some safety reps there. He was about a redshirt freshman. So, but the biggest call out is the cornerback room, believe it or not. If there's one thing I could take away from all this, and the reason being is because out of all the corners, the guy who got the most reps was true freshman Xavier Lucas with 28 snaps. So I think, we all know what the future is going to be bright with him. I mean, everybody in the Badgers circle, any diehards are saying this guy is definitely a future first round, maybe future second round draft pick, in a few years, right? 6'2" frame. But he got 28 snaps. Nazir Forqueen 27, Rico 26, Delancey 20. Then we got to see our boy Amari Snowden in for a game as well.
Yeah, I think he played like 4 snaps, something.
And he got a tackle
on the box score.
He did get a tackle, so that was cool to see. And Amari Snowden's a guy that has actually been going through a tough time this year. His mother did pass away a couple months ago.
Right before the
season, it was just good to see him on the field, with his demeanor and his attitude. And he was talking to us anyway. I have no doubt he's going to overcome, any obstacle that's thrown at his way and make his way onto the field for us because he's an athlete. And, I think Badger fans should definitely get used to hearing his name quite a bit more.
I agree.
So, Michael, definitely appreciate your comments on the Brewers. If I'm going to come back to your comments when we get to the offensive side of the ball, because we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
Apham said the Badgers defense, or I think he means definitely, still look a bit disjointed, but needed a win like that. Absolutely. 52-6 win. You'll take those against anybody. And here's the thing is there's always going to be people that no matter what it ends up being, there's going to be a reason to not accept it. And this week look at who they're playing. It's like they won by 46 points. I don't care if they're playing the Alabama School for the Deaf.
Bro, they could be playing an entire team where the entire team is missing their left arm. I don't give a fuck.
It's
to win on a Saturday.
6. And if you want to go by what they were favored to win by, it was 12.5. They won by 46.
Right?
52-6. Didn't give up a single point in the second half.
Not
Apham like that. Jake Chaney played a significantly better game. Was very happy to see that. Jaheim Thomas was turned loose on the pass rush a couple times. I was really interested to see that as well. He had a sack, had 2 pressures, also had 4 run stops. So Jaheim Thomas had a better game. John Pius had 2 pressures and a sack. Daryl Peterson had a second game in a row where he was making an impact with the pass rush. He had 2 pressures. Leon Lowry had 4 pressures. The Badgers had 17 total pressures. 14 of them came from the linebacker room. Yeah. They also had 21 run stops. 15 of those came from the linebackers. 3 of them by Tackett Curtis. So a much, much, much needed, well-played game by the linebackers. I was really encouraged by it. And I'm going to say this. Jake and I were talking last night, and I told him one of the things that I was planning to say, and he's like, that's awesome. Say that tomorrow. And looking at it, as far as Purdue is concerned, this is a get-right game type game for the Badgers. Rutgers, we were going to preview in a minute after we talk about the offense. Rutgers is a perfect step up from a team that you should beat by a lot to a team that you are really evenly matched with. And I'm really looking forward to that, step up in talent. It's not like they go from Purdue to Ohio State or Purdue to Penn State or Purdue to Oregon or something like that. They go Purdue to Rutgers to be able to step up, an incremental amount. Avum said, we have the players on defense, just need to continue to play collectively as a group. And they're still finding guys that are going to contribute. Like, I've liked seeing Daryl Peterson generate 8 pressures over the last 2 weeks. It was really good to see Leon Lowry in there making plays this week.
Yeah.
And then it's just good to see the guys at the top, the Jake Chaney and Jaheim Thomas, those guys having good games. That was really encouraging for me as far as the linebackers are concerned. So, Jake, how did you feel about the defensive line?
So no single player on the defensive line really stuck out to me, but as they should be, as over the course of the season, I feel like the position group is getting better. I feel like maybe they're coaching them a little bit differently, giving them different responsibilities, but any way that they're doing it, I think the defensive line is actually doing its job now. So you play a 3-man front. Mike knows this. Tyler knows this. Everybody who has a football brain knows this. You have to demand a double team. Yep. Either that or you have to absolutely take over a gap.
Yep.
That is your job in a 3-man front. And you can look at the stats. D-line, they had 0 sacks, 0 hits, and they had 5 hurries. In the run game, they didn't have any tackles or assists. They only had 1 miss. That was by Kurt Neal. But I think what they're doing is they're allowing the linebackers to flow better. And when you have guys like Christian Allegro and you have guys like Tackett Curtis, you have guys like Jake Chaney, who's been a little bit better the last couple of weeks. Tyler's mentioned the edge rushers. And you have guys like that, good athletes like that. And, dude, Allegro, I'm going to tell you, that guy is quickly becoming my favorite player on the team.
Fucking nailed it on the dark horse candidate. Hell yeah.
I'm being dude, that guy, holy hell, he's going to be one.
I like him.
Future's bright in that position. I know.
Yeah, he's going to be an NFL player. I can already see him playing on Sundays. The play that he made this week where he batted the ball in the air and he looked the ball almost taking back to him.
Oh,
yo.
Yeah.
Like, that's not just a regular linebacker play. I'm telling you right now. People need to realize that. That was a crazy play. But the D-line is doing a great job with gap responsibility and demanding double teams and absolutely playing to their job. So that's a really good job by them, really good job by the coaching staff, realizing that maybe we're a lack of talent, but we can coach them better, scheme them up better, and use them in the correct way. And the D-line is doing much better, allowing the linebackers to free flow. Just let the DBs do what they got to do. They're locked down. You let Hunter Wohler hunt because that's what he does. It's literally in his name. I've said that before. I'll say it again. This defense has a chance to be okay. They just need to be consistent in the run game, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. Well, Jake, keep talking special teams.
Yeah, so you could take PFF grades for whatever you want. I don't really use them, but they had their highest PFF grade. The special teams did as a unit as an 86.8, so they were pretty good this week. In my opinion, I agree with that. We had no kick returns, couple punt returns, not really anything special, like 13 yards. Bertram's had 2 punts for 99 yards, 52 long and 1 inside the 20, so good for him. And Vaco's was 1 for 1 on field goals, 26-yarder, and 7 for 7 from extra point. You can't ask for anything else from a kicker.
Love that. I love a guy getting 10 points in one game. That's more of that, please. Especially if it's 7 extra points and 1 field goal as opposed to 3 field goals and 1 extra point.
Right.
All right, going to the offensive side of the ball. I'll start with this because I'll go pass game and then we'll go run game and O-line. Starting with the passing game, Braden Locke is the first Badger to throw for 300 yards since Joel Stavi on October 17th, 2015. That game also versus Purdue.
Yeah, they are our punching bag.
Yeah, they really are. They're kind of everybody's punching bag at this point.
I'm going to guess. Do you have the stats from that game in front of you? I'm just trying to guess off the top of my head who the leading receiver might have been. I don't think it was going to be Aberderis for 2015. It was Alex Erickson, maybe?
That sounds like the right answer.
I guess Alex Erickson. Fumagalli might have got some looks, too.
Fumagalli. What a fun name.
Right, here we go.
What a fun name.
The Badgers won that game 24-7. The scoring, Alec Ingold had a touchdown. Dario Gumbawale had a touchdown run, and Alec Ingold had another touchdown run. The top receiver for that game. Wow. Yep, Alex Erickson had 9 for 86. Second on the team was Robert Wheelwright, 6 for 61.
Yep. Okay.
And then Daria Gumbawale had 6 catches for 51. Troy Fumagalli had 4 catches for 45. Jazz Peavy had 2 for 48.
Yep.
Eric Steffes had 1 for 16. And Reggie Love had 2 for 15.
That is the most Eric Steffes freaking stat line I've ever heard. 1 for 16. That was him every week.
Yes, sir, dude. shout out Holy Land.
All right. At one point, Braden Locke completed 12 passes in a row, making good RPO decisions, which, yes, that is what I called for immediately after we recapped the Alabama game and we started previewing USC. Like, I want to see Braden Locke put in the RPO situations that they were putting Tyler Van Dyke in, because I was liking what I was seeing from Tyler Van Dyke in those situations. And if the Badgers truly believed that they had a 1A, 1B situation, I wanted to see Braden Locke being put in the same situations. Mm-hmm. And we got some of that this week, and I liked the decisions that he made in those RPOs, and he made good throws out of them. That was very encouraging for Braden Locke. My breakout candidate, which was Tretch Kekahuna, had a breakout performance. He had 6 catches for 134 yards and 2 touchdowns. Absolutely love that. He was named the Freshman of the Week. And then, of course, we can't have nice things without somebody complaining about it. So the Badgers post that Tretch Kekahuna was named Freshman of the Week, and then somebody goes, oh, look at the opponent. It's like it's meaningless because he doesn't do it against good teams. There's no such thing as a meaningless Freshman of the Week award. It's a Freshman of the Week, dude. You got recognized for having a good game. That's it. Just leave it at that. Looking at the distribution, Braden Locke completed passes to 9 different players. I was very pleased with CJ Williams, especially on third down. He had 2 catches in the second half on some key third downs. Braden Locke, really big tale of 2 halves here, which is unfortunately something that's kind of consistent. Tale of 2 halves, but thankfully the second half was the better one. In the first half, Braden Locke on third down was 0 for 4 with a pass interference that gave him a first down and had 2 interceptions. In the second half on third downs, he was 3 for 3 for 31 yards and stood in and made some good throws under pressure on a couple of them. Yeah. So much better tale of 2 halves there. And I'm going to say this. I owe Braden Locke an apology, because after the second interception, I was ready for Colacrew or maybe Matoyer, because it seems though that's the next guy up. I thought maybe they'd try to redshirt him, but if he plays in 4 games or fewer, they can still redshirt him. So I think this was the first game that he played in. So I think that's how it works.
I was definitely pissed off after that second one, but going back, I didn't realize, at first when I was watching the game, I was kind of like watching around like other people, wasn't paying attention. I didn't realize the first interception, I don't want to call him out specifically, but Will Pauling, he dropped that. So I'm going to give Braden the benefit of the doubt on that one. But no, I mean, in the moment, absolutely. I definitely hear what you were saying, because it's even at the time, it's like, yeah, we might be up, but I mean, come on, man, 2 picks. Like, what the hell is this?
My reasoning was, and I talked through this with Jake, my reasoning was that it felt like he was trying to force the ball too much.
Yeah. I
don't know if that's a Locke thing or a Longo thing. And it was good to see them get it figured out.
Yeah.
So that there were some better windows for him to try to, force a ball through or throw some lasers in. Because in the second half, he absolutely did. But in the first half, it felt to me like he was trying to force the ball too much. Jake agreed, and then also added that he thought that his reads weren't happening quick enough. Yeah. Which then kind of produced that point where he's trying to force the ball somewhere. And that's definitely what the second interception felt like to me, was just trying to force the ball into somewhere where there was nowhere to throw. So the second half, however, I think has been, you guys can tell me if you agree with me on this or not. I think that second half was the best example of what the Badgers air raid will be in any game so far in the first year and a half.
You're talking about guys in space. You're talking about guys breaking tackles and creating rack. That's exactly what
balanced play calls.
Yeah.
I mean, Tretch, that first touchdown. I mean, guys getting in space and doing their thing once they catch the ball. Yeah.
So with this, while allowing the quarterback to make some decisions on some RPOs, the Badgers in the second half, 14 runs, 14 passes.
Yeah.
beautiful balance. They scored 2 touchdowns on the ground, 2 touchdowns through the air. Perfect balance. I'm going to stand on it. I think the second half of the Purdue game was the best example of what the Badgers air raid can look like in the first year and a half of the tenure of Luke Fickell and Phil Longo.
Yep.
All right. That's where I'm going to leave it for the pass game. Mike, what did you think of the running game?
It was kind of, everybody ate this week again, kind of what I said on defense. But no, I mean, it was good for the most part. I mean, we had 5 different ball carriers. We got to see some new guys, which is great. We got to see the future, which looks extremely bright. Holy shit. I'll start with Tawi because he got the bulk of the carries. 19 carries, 94 yards, 3 touchdowns. All short yardage for the most part, but you know what? He still ran pretty damn hard. He busted out for 117-yard run. That was pretty nice. But this is going to be, obviously, he's going to be our bell cow for the most part. I think the rest of the year, that's safe to say. Can't fault the dude for running his tail off and running over people. So no, he had a decent game, but he's going to need that complimentary guy or guys. And we got to see more Darion Dupree this last week. He was out there for 22 snaps. He had 7 carries for 24 yards, and he had a long run of 13. And you can definitely see the athleticism. Like, you can definitely tell why the staff loves Darion Dupree, because kind of like with receivers, when he gets in space, you let him do his thing, right? He can also run between the tackles too, which is what a good running back does. So it was great to see him. Katie Akamelli got his first touchdown as a Badger, which is pretty damn cool. I would have liked to see him out there a little more personally, and I hope he does get a few more snaps, because I do think he deserved a few more. He was only out there for 8 snaps, but he had 5 carries, 39 yards, got his first touchdown for a run of 30 yards, which is pretty cool. Then we got to see another part of the future, true freshman Dylan Jones.
My guy.
Any Badger fans that may not know, Dylan Jones is ESPN top 100 player, 4-star recruit from Maryland. He had 7 carries for 65 yards, and he busted out for a sick-ass 47-yard run in the fourth quarter. And, the future is definitely bright in the running back room. And then it finished off with Gideon Atuka, another freshman running back for the Badgers. He got 2 carries for 4 yards as well. He's kind of got the body frame of a Tawi Walker. He's going to run over some people, similar frame as well. So, I mean, with the 3-headed monster freshman of Darion Dupree, Dylan Jones, and Gideon Atuka, for the next few years, I think the Badgers should be set too. Yeah. And we're going to sprinkle on Katie Akamelli as well, hopefully. So
before I go to Jake on the O-line, I just want to talk on something that Ephraim brought up. He said he has a hard time watching the offense with the stupid snap clap instead of a regular hard count. He said, I bet you we don't get a single offside on the defense with the clap. It's honestly kind of a standard at this point.
That's
universal.
Yeah. And even outside of anybody that doesn't do it, there's really just not a lot of players jumping off sides in college football regardless.
Yeah.
So it's, it is what it is. If you don't like it, just mute your TV or whatever, or just mute it for just the clap, or just pretend it's somebody in the stands clapping. He said, not trying to compare the old Badgers, but we were the best under center doing play action. As much as I love play action, if we're talking about the old Badgers, we can't be the old Badgers forever. You have to innovate and update if you want to compete with the front runners. You have to be able to keep up with them, or be able to even trend set if you want to have the high recruits, because they're going to want the flashy things. They're going to want the high, the social media, buzz about them. They're going to want the exciting, facilities and the exciting towns to be in. They're going to want those things. So we can't keep being the old Badgers and just think that everybody is going to want to be part of it just because it's traditional. You have to be able to sight of that, but you have to be able to innovate and update in the world of college sports.
If we want to get to the point where we want to be a part of that college football playoff on a consistent basis for years to come. Absolutely, change was needed from a schematic standpoint. I don't want to call out coaches directly, but we were behind the times, unfortunately, in college football. Ultimately, at the end of the day, I get, we had that one good year. What was it, in 2017? We were a top 10 team. Okay, that's fine. That's also 2017, right? We were kind of on a downward spiral. Change was needed across the board. I can go into this all day, but we didn't have a
thing that I keep coming back to. If you're talking about the coaching thing, there is such a difference in recruiting, is because people are excited to be recruited by Wisconsin now because Luke Fickell's putting it all on social media. And we have taken notice of that is Greg Gard.
Yeah. He got so excited he muted himself. You muted yourself.
Yeah, it's because I tapped on my table.
I know.
Nice. Like, settle down. But like, Greg Gard noticed that people liked being talked about, so he started doing it, and all of a sudden we have guys that want to come here to play basketball. It's not hard to recognize the trend there. People like being talked about. People like thinking that you like them. It's not hard.
People love Madison, Wisconsin, baby. Best college.
I have an opinion on this. I do agree with one thing that Mike said, that we were behind. So I feel like as we're trying to be competitive, we're also trying to catch up.
Yes,
that's a hard place to be in, right? So if you have the mental maturity to realize that, you also have the mental maturity to be patient and allow things to happen.
Thank you for saying that.
Now, being patient in real life time is a lot harder than telling yourself you're going to give it time. Okay? That means don't just go to Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or your fucking aunt or grandma and be texting them saying that the Badgers stink. Okay? Having patience means allowing things to play out. Yeah. Now, as that is true, I do like the idea of an air raid offense. I also do think that from an offensive line perspective, you do need some old school under center, dirty work football. So I think both can be true. Like, there was a situation in the USC game, 4th and 1. Why the fuck are we running out of shotgun? That is a situation where you bring a big-ass boy from the sidelines to be your fullback. You tell the quarterback to put his hands under the nuts of the center. You say, we are bigger than you. We are going to get the first down. Both things can be true. As that's not true right now, again, we are playing catch-up while also trying to remain competitive. The Badgers are a competitive college football team. Don't kid yourselves.
Yeah.
Are they one of the top 25 teams right now? Absolutely not. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you.
People need to calm their shit on the Badgers are a glorified track team.
Yes.
Stop saying shit like that.
But they are a good college football team. They do have talent on both sides of the ball. They have good coaches. I believe in Luke Fickell. I believe in Longo. Longo's having an adjustment period as well.
Yep.
He's used to going to places like Ole Miss in North Carolina and having all these nice shiny toys that run 4.240s, okay? We're just starting to bring some of those guys in right now. The next year's wide receiver class is going to be much better. Eugene Hilton, can't be more excited for that kid, right? That was a big get for us.
Yep.
We are going to be getting the horses to run this offense a little bit more effectively. But again, that requires patience. So as we talk about patience, I'm going to talk about offensive line, which gives the quarterback a lot of time to throw the ball and allows the running backs to show patience and run the ball. So I want to give a shout out to the offensive line real quick. And 0 sacks again, back-to-back weeks. Absolutely fucking love that. In each of the first 3 games, Bama, South Dakota, and Western Michigan, they had a sack. They gave up 1 sack in each of those games. The last 2 games, 0 sacks. So I love that. That's a great trend for the offensive line. The offensive line has been balling out this year. 0 hits this week versus Purdue, 7 hurries, and 0 penalties. 0 freaking penalties and 0 sacks.
I like the linebackers that they have.
That's what I'm saying. You give up 0 sacks, 0 hits, and have 0 penalties. That's the equivalent of a relief pitcher coming in and just locking shit down after giving up a walk.
That's an A+.
Or a starting pitcher going 5 and only giving up 1 run. You are giving your team a chance to win. And that's what I love.
O-line gets a gold star this week.
Brandon Locke should be buying them dinner. He has it.
Yeah.
They keep blocking like that, bro. I think they buy them more than dinner.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else you guys want to say on the Badgers and Purdue game before we switch to Rutgers?
Just wanted to say one more thing. Badgers had 28 first downs against Purdue.
Damn.
28 first
28. Damn.
28 first downs. I'm going to say it 3 times because that's ridiculous.
Wow. That's
28.
wild. All right. As we switch to Rutgers, I'm going to say again what I said when we first were starting to talk about the Purdue game. Rutgers is favored this game by 2.5 points. That is the grace that you get for being the home team. You get 2.5 points for being the home team, which essentially says that Vegas and statistics will tell you that this game is about as even of a match as you can have. Mm-hmm. So that's what I really liked about going from Purdue to Rutgers, is a really even match between these two teams, going from Purdue, a team that they should have blown out and blew out by 46 points, to now a team that should be pretty even, head to head. So Mike, I'll go to you first again and tell me what you're looking for from the defense.
I'm going to stick to the defense. I know you guys are – well, for the defense in general, I would say it's really interesting because both sides – so, if there's, one side of, the ball of batters that I think needs the most help, it's probably the run defense, right? It's also kind of similar on the Rutgers side as well. I'm going to stick, though, to the quarterback in general since I got the secondary. The batters are familiar with Callica Manis. I think Callica Manis. I'm sorry if I keep butchering it. But everyone in the Big Ten knows who this guy is, I think, for the most part, because he's got a year or two under his belt at Minnesota.
Yep.
And, the batters are going to want to make sure they're going to try their best to put the ball in his hands to try and make a play versus the running back room. And I'll let one of you guys talk about that. But, last week, watching that Nebraska game, it speaks for itself. 15 for 37, 186 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 picks, 19.3 QBR overall going at Nebraska.
Sounds like a Minnesota quarterback.
Yeah, exactly. So, and the batters have plenty of tape on this guy as well. I fully expect the secondary to be ready to go. I do expect, in general, for the batters to sell out for the run damn near every play and make the quarterback beat us.
Yep.
And I hope that happens because I will trust our secondary to get the job done here. That's plain and simple. These guys can run the shit out of the ball, but I'm strictly talking secondary. Make the quarterback beat us this game for sure. I think Rico Hallman gets a pick.
Love
because
that.
I think Callica Manis is dumb enough to throw to him.
Wait, did he have a pick against Rutgers last year?
He did.
Yeah.
A pretty cool one, if I remember correctly.
That he returned it for a good length.
I think he's going to want another one on Saturday. So
I would absolutely love another 96-yard pick six.
Yeah, I think
give me a Rico interception this weekend because his quarterback is dumb enough to throw it at.
Yeah, dumb enough to try him. So Rutgers averages 25.8 points a game. They average 175 rushing yards per game. That's number 47 in the country. They average 200 passing yards a game. That's number 87 in the country. So you look at those two things and you see which one they do well. It's running the ball. Mm-hmm. Also, one thing I'm really going to be watching for is if the Badgers can improve their third down defense. So Rutgers is 53rd in the country on third down percentages at 42.25%. Wisconsin allows 44.23% because the Alabama and USC games really hurt them in that department. Yeah. So one thing I'm going to be looking for the defense is if they can improve that percentage by having a good day against Rutgers on third downs. So, Jake, what are you looking for from the defense?
Yeah, so I'm just going to focus on the D-line here. Wrote down some stuff on the D-line. So, sacks on the year, the Badgers have 10 total sacks on the year. 2 of them came from the D-line, both from Eli Hillis. Badgers have 7 total hits on the quarterback, 2 from the D-line. They have 47 total pressures, 15 from the D-line. Now, I said the D-line is getting better with gap responsibility. That is true. But I would still like to have at least one guy that could just – because the quickest way to kill an offense is to collapse the pocket from the middle, right? Everybody expects you to come from the outside with the speed rushers. If we have one guy that can collapse it from the middle, everything is shot. Because now you're running into a guy like a John Pius, you're running into a Peterson, and you're allowing those guys to be athletes and make plays, right?
We need like a Tavondre Sweat, basically. Like he could wreck games by himself.
Right. So I looked up. They have 9.4 hurries per game. I thought that wasn't bad. They have 1.8 sacks per game. Also 2 sacks per game really isn't that bad.
That's not bad.
And they have a 6.09 sack percentage, which honestly I thought was going to be a lot worse looking at their total sacks, but they're almost in the top 50, which actually isn't that bad when you look at it. So for the D-line, obviously we're all talking about it. Their running game is what gets them going. They have a couple running backs. They have a main guy, Kyle Malongai. He's very, very good. I'm going to probably talk about him in a second, just saying. And they have a couple other backups who are pretty good, but we talked about it. The quarterback is not good. Let's just all go feast on this guy. This Rutgers team really reminds me, and it's so funny that they got a former Minnesota quarterback. This reminds me of a Minnesota team when they had a couple good seasons, the first couple of years when Midget Man was over there, when they were kind of taking football by storm with his glasses that are bigger than his forehead. But they played good defense and they ran the ball, and their quarterbacks were shit. This is exactly what the Rutgers are. They play good defense, they run the ball, and their quarterback is shit. Stop the run. Let's control the ball on offense, get some fucking first downs. That's why I wanted to talk about the 28 first downs versus Purdue. Let's have a little bit more of that. And then let's go feast, boys.
Yeah.
All right, Mike, what are you looking for from the offense?
So the stat of the day that I caught my eye here was Rutgers' run defense is very, very vulnerable. They've given up 880 yards on the ground this year so far. 176 yards per game.
Ugh.
Okay. So you guys know where I'm going with this. We got to be RBU this game, right?
Yep.
I think I get it. We want to have that balance of run and pass. This might need to be one of those games where, we be carrying 20 plus, Darian maybe 7 to 8. Yak. I want Yak to get 10 carries. I really do. His yards per carry is just super high. That's the one thing I ask going forward. But this is an opportunity for us our offensive line to make another statement once again, and just run all over these boys. Honestly, we're gonna need those We're gonna need those complimentary throws. I get that here and there, but this is absolutely still an opportunity to make a statement in the ground game. Once again, and have our running backs get them to have another day like last week. So yeah, that's a stat I wanted to bring up here.
So you're on the run game. I'm on the pass game. If we're playing a game of tug of war, I'm not going to try to yank the rope all the way to my side, but I'm going to try to pull it just so that the white line is right in the middle, because that's where I'm looking. I'm looking for that 50-50 split. Because the Badgers, like I said, with their second half against Purdue, that to me was when the offense was the most effective. That's when Braden Locke was the most effective. That's when the run game was the most effective. And Wisconsin, they're right in the middle of the pack at 72nd with 218.5 passing yards per game. Rutgers, their third down defense, they're number 51 in the country at 36.84%. Wisconsin is currently converting 42.59. That is 50th. So Wisconsin is 50th in converting, and Rutgers is 51st in stopping. So again, just hammering on the even matchup part of this. These teams are very evenly matched.
Yep.
So that's what I'm looking at. And again, I'm strongly advocating for that almost identical 50-50 split. So Jake, what are you looking for from the offense?
So I'm going to harp on the O-line again. This is definitely a game where the O-line needs to carry the offense. You're going into a place in Rutgers where they're 4-1 this year, and their fans are starting to believe. The national media is starting to talk about them, so their fans are really going to start believing, which is going to make the team start believing even more. So the offensive line needs to be the cornerstone of this team this week, in my opinion. They've had, as I said before, 2 dominant back-to-back weeks against USC and Purdue, respectively. People want to talk about, but it's just Purdue. Well, guess what? They dominated on the road against number 11 at that time, which they went from number 11 to unranked when they lost to Minnesota, which everybody should anyways, because you should never lose to Minnesota. But man, they're catching strays today, but they deserve it. So far.
They do.
Damn, I did not write a single thing about Minnesota on this paper. But golly, am I freaking giving them haymakers right now. What I'm going to try to say here is, as I collect my composure, back-to-back dominant weeks, absolutely being the center of this offense, 3 sacks the entire year, running the ball well the last couple of weeks. I think they're getting a little bit more yards before contact, in my opinion. So I'll have to go back and look that up. That's a good reminder. But I think the O-line needs to dominate again. I expect them to dominate again. I don't think Rutgers are as good as everybody thinks. I think that Washington's actually worse than what people think. Everybody started freaking out after they beat Washington, but just my opinion.
Yeah. I'm going to tell you what I think when we get to score predictions. All right, Mike, who's your X factor?
It's actually Brandon Locke, believe it or not. And
me too.
And the reason why I say that is kind of like what I was saying, before with the run game. I mean, you still got to have those complimentary big-time throws, right? And when you're looking, as you were saying, like these two teams are pretty both evenly matched, both of their flaws. If we're going to talk flaws, their run D is not good. Ours definitely needs work. You just think about it like we are very much evenly matched in a bunch of areas, right? The difference in this game is going to be the quarterback play, honestly. Who's going to make the clutch throws, I think, in my view. And I pray to God that Rutgers quarterback throws it 30 times or more, because that's going to be an automatic win for us for sure. So if we can keep him in duress, get Rico a pick. It's the quarterback battle. Who's better, right? And I think that X factor of Brandon Locke in this case, to come up with a couple of those clutch throws, whether it be to Will Pauling, Stretch, Bryson Green, hopefully he gets healthy because he was out early in the game last week. So going to have to keep up with his status. But it sounds like Will Pauling was back in practice this week. That's good. But who's going to come up with the bigger throws at the end of the day? Because I don't see this being high scoring. And I think it's going to really come down to both teams are going to want to run the ball. And it's going to come down to which quarterbacks can make those clutch throws, whether it be with 2 minutes to go in the fourth quarter or get that field goal before halftime. It's going to be clutch throws, I think, by Brandon Locke that we're going to need to have from him.
So Brandon Locke is mine too, and I'm going to again go to the second half of the game last week. The second half of last week's game, to me, was the most inspiring half of football that I've seen Brandon Locke play. We talked about it when we were expecting what we were getting going from Tyler Van Dyke to Brandon Locke, and my thing was that I wanted to see how he got through this Purdue game. I didn't want to just judge him only against how he played against USC. I wanted to see him play Purdue. And if I'm going off of even just one game at a time, I would absolutely give Brandon Locke more time, if that's still the conversation that I'm going to have based on what I've said previously. So mine is Brandon Locke, just because I want to see more of what I saw in the second half last week.
Mm-hmm.
Jake, who's your X factor?
So my X factor is a Rutger, and I said his name before, but it's Kyle Monangai. 116 carries, 667 yards, 6 touchdowns to 5.8 yard average. I went back, I watched all of his highlight reels from all the games he played this year, and this is what I came up with. He has really good explosion. He's really good at pressing the hole and then cutting back. They run a lot of zone run schemes to allow him to decide what hole to go through. He's really good at pressing the hole and cutting back. The Badgers linebackers are going to need some A-plus gap responsibility in this game, because you're going to have to cover this A gap, and this B gap, because they run a lot of zone reads with him. Out of 11 personnel with 3 wide receivers, they spread you out, they make you thin in the front 7, and then they just run a lot of zone reads or zone powers, and they say Kyle is better than your best guy over there, and this is what we're going to do. And again, who does that remind you of? Just saying. Didn't Minnesota have a guy who they thought was pretty good too? I don't know if that guy's in the NFL.
No, he's not. I think he's on a practice squad.
Well, there's a lot of Badger running backs in the NFL. Just saying, and they were backups on our team. So,
yeah. All right, Mike, what's your key?
Jake kind of mentioned it, but I got stopping the run. I think our linebackers, like Jake literally said it, linebacker room is going to be busy this weekend, because as D linemen and our 3 front, we're going to fill gap responsibility, right? And it's going to be our linebackers' job to fill the rest of those gaps, especially because I think we're going to load the box as we should, I think, for the most part, until Mr. Gopher over there can actually make a couple big throws. But if he does, it's going to be pick 6 off of him or something like that. But no, stop the run, because this is their bell cow. This is their all Big Ten player. you got to do whatever you can to, stop the run, get off the field fast, and make that quarterback freaking throw. So I got it simple, stop the run, and roll Tide. Not.
So shockingly, if you haven't picked up on me talking about this already, but mine is getting off the field on 3rd down.
Huh.
So Wisconsin held Purdue to 1 for 11 on 3rd downs. That is gorgeous.
Yeah, it is.
I'm not expecting 1 for 11 again, but if we can hold them even 3 or 4 for 11, that's going to help bring that percentage down that inflated against Alabama and USC.
Yeah.
Jake, what's your key?
So you keep talking about it, but mine's offensive balance. You're going for a little bit more 50-50.
Look at us coming full circle.
Mike's going for a little bit more 60-40. I really love the 55-45 split, which is basically what they had last week. I love that you have to run the ball. I mean, I can make this correlation between the Packers and the Badgers too, but look at the Packers last week. When they ran the ball, they had successful drives. It's crazy what happens when you get your linemen going forward instead of going back all the time and allowing the defense to attack you. But running the ball just sets a tone and a mindset, and I've been harping on mindset and mentality the last couple of weeks. And establishing the run establishes your mindset and your mentality for the game. So being able to do that, sprinkling some deep passes with some rack, with some guys from Trutchke Kahuna, I mean, it's a beautiful thing to watch. This is what the dairy rate is all about.
Love it. All right, Mike, hit me with a score prediction from the head.
Here we go.
You have this power. You have it 20. I got 23-20.
23-20?
Yep.
Okay.
All right. I have a little bit more points. I have Wisconsin winning 28-24. And again, I want to reiterate that this is a really evenly matched game.
Yes.
So Mike says 23-20, huh? I say 23-21 with a game-winning field goal from Vakos.
Oh, that would be stressful.
Give it to me.
From how far out?
I didn't make that prediction. I was like, if I'm already predicting a game-winning field goal, I'll say, you know what? I'll do it right now. I'll think right now off the top of the dome. If I'm thinking we have to get into field goal range, right? We have one drive. We're spreading you out. We've seen Vaco hit from 50. If we can get him somewhere in the 47 to 51 range, I'm going to be serious. I feel pretty good about it. I do feel pretty good about it, 47 to 51. I'm so serious.
On the road, I like it. I like it. That's why we make these predictions.
The football's the same size, dude. Doesn't matter what stadium you play in.
Yeah. Dad, the spread is 2.5, which, again, is what you get for being the home team. You get 2.5 points for being the home team, which basically means this game is even.
Yeah.
So, Mike, what's your score prediction from the heart?
I got 24-13. Hammer the under from the heart. I mean, I think it's plain and simple. I think we fuck up this quarterback's life this weekend. That's what my heart says. I think I think there's an opportunity to do that. If we sell it if we're going to sell on the run, which I think we should, yes, I'll give you 13 points to Kyle Manungai, whatever. But I think it's our secondary. Like our secondary has the opportunity to clean up the mess, so to speak. So I think it's a great opportunity for a secondary to have a big game once they throw it. And 24-13.
Almost feel like there's a scenario here where Ricardo Holman and Xavier Lucas could get an interception this week. That would make me happy.
Be happy like a fat kid in a candy store.
I feel like Colorful, whatever the hell his name is, really messed up one of Mike's parlays at one point. That's why you're so angry at him.
He's Minnesota, remember? We're talking about Minnesota. You're right.
You're right.
This is my turn to harp on Minnesota.
I just wanted to make sure. I was like,
Gary Alvarez would be all for it. He hates.
I was like, what did this guy do to you personally, Mike?
Tyler, you're up.
31-20 from the heart.
Oh, all right. I have 28-20 from the heart.
All right. So even if you look at our heart predictions, we're not predicting any blowouts here. I think we have a respect for Rutgers.
Mm-hmm.
But again, this is an evenly matched football game. So we appreciate again everybody tuning in, commenting along as we talked about the Brewers and the Badgers football team. We're still a little bit up in the air about how we're going to handle the end of the Brewers season and the beginning of the Bucs season. Jake and I are still going to have some discussions on how exactly we're going to handle that. If you missed it, last night we talked about the Packers win over the Rams and previewed their game against the Cardinals. So check that out from last night as well. And again, if you can't catch the shows live, you can always rewatch them or listen to them where you get your podcasts. So Mike, we will see you again next week. And Jake, I will see you on Tuesday. So thanks everybody. And we will see you guys next week.
Sounds good, fellas. Later.